Day one of the draft for the Avs is over, and the biggest news probably isn't the pick the Avs made, but their other move. Yeah, before the draft even began today, the Avs completed a trade. In fact, it was the first trade of the day and the only trade that involved a player. It involved two players, in fact. The Avs traded the 47th overall pick to the Washington Capitals for Philip Grubauer and Brooks Orpik. Start with the easy part of that first. Brooks Orpik was clearly just a cap dump for the Capitals, and Sakic has even said that he intends to buy him out, so he's not really going to have any effect on the Avs. He was just in part of this trade to reduce the cost for the Avalanche as what they had to give back. The cap hit the Avs will be taking on from that buyout is negligible. The Avs have plenty of cap space. It'll be $2.5 million this year and then $1.5 million next, and that just won't be an issue, so no problem there. The reason they made this trade is obviously for Grubauer, who, while I guess he'll technically be filling the backup role, it's really going to be a tandem split this year between Varley and Grubauer. Sakic has said he believes he has two number ones, and if he's willing to give up this second round pick even while taking on a cap hit, I have to think that they could see Grubauer taking over that number one spot for himself going forward in the future after this year. His career numbers are pretty strong. He does have just over 100 games played, but it really has come in a bit of staggered events. This was his most played season with 36 games this year, so this is the first time he's really approached playing enough games to even be considered a tandem goalie. So while he is not fully proven, his numbers over the past couple of years definitely support giving him an opportunity, and I do believe he will have a chance to earn the number one spot here, as the end of this year, Varley's contract is up, and his obvious propensity for getting injured has not helped his case to continue being the Avs starter. Of course, Grubauer will have to earn it at every step of the way. If he shows up and just lays eggs here, it's not going to end well. The other wrinkle with Grubauer is that he's currently a restricted free agent without a contract. Now, there have already been a lot of talks about the Avs signing him to a 3-year deal. I go back and forth with that. A 3-year deal probably isn't all that risky. At very least, Grubauer should be a solid backup for you across that time, but if you really believe that he's going to be the number one of the future, you may have wanted to take the risk and add a couple more years onto that to lock him down further on into his UFA years. Considering that the Avs were willing to give up their higher second round pick to get Grubauer, they have to like him quite a lot. And then comes the unfun part of the Avs giving up the 47th overall pick. I do think that's what they had to give up to get him. Apparently Carolina had a higher second round pick on the table, but Washington didn't want to keep Grubauer in the same division, and I get the Avs thinking instead of taking a chance on a pick, they can go and get Grubauer, and that definitely gives them a solid backup goalie. This isn't like when they traded a second for Reto Berra. Berra was much less experienced, and people weren't as sure about him really being able to make it in the NHL at that point. So I get it, but I do still really wish that the Avs could have figured out a way to give up the 58th overall, the later second, instead, because they are going to miss out on a lot of potentially strong options now in the second round. This draft was kind of a wild one. There were a ton of fallers all over the place. Hell, we saw Joe Veleno fall all the way to 30th, and he was one of my personal favorites that I was hoping for the Avs to pick at 16. So, I mean, I expect the scouts probably know something I don't there with Veleno falling that far, but there's still plenty of talent that didn't even get drafted in the first round. Akil Thomas, Sarah Noel, Jared McIsaac are all still on the board, and those would be great guys to be targeting if we had that 47th overall pick, but we don't. And I fear that none of those guys are going to fall to us at 58th overall. And part of why I think the 47th overall was too much is because of Brooks Orpik. It's a huge favor for Washington to get rid of that, and now they can do things like sign John Carlson if they want to, or if they don't want to, they still shouldn't have any issues managing their cap this offseason. It really feels like the Avs could have gotten a little bit more for taking on that cap hit, like giving the 58th instead of the 47th. Again, I know there were competing offers, but at a certain point you have to draw a line and say too much is too much. Still, at the very least, it has solved the backup goalie thing for the Avs. Bernier's not going to be coming back, and hopefully Grubauer does become that starting goalie that people think he can be. If he does, then giving up a second round pick and taking on Brooks Orpik was definitely worth it. And then we have what this video was supposed to be about in the first place, the Avs' 16th overall draft pick. We did not get the 4th from Ottawa, as nobody expected we did, so that went according to plan. And then at the 16th, the Avs took Martin Kaut. He's not someone that I followed all that closely. I saw a little bit of him at the WJC before the draft, and he played most of the year in the top Czech professional league, which is a big deal, being that young playing in a pro league, but just not easy access for us in the US. On top of that, he had a snag at the combine where he had to leave because of a medical issue. Apparently he needed some kind of surgery that had to do with his heart. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but apparently it turned out to be nothing, and the fact that the Avs are willing to take him at 16, I'm sure they know more than I do, so they almost certainly think that it was nothing. Assuming that whatever that issue was isn't a problem, he was ranked to go between 16 and 25-ish for most people, so it's not really a reach to take him at 16. Kaut checks a lot of boxes for the Avs. First of all, he's a right wing, which the Avs need. Beyond that, he's a scoring right wing with a very good shot. He's also 6'2", 180 pounds, which he'll fill out and add to that weight total, but he's a bigger guy. He's definitely not going to get thrown around and can hold his own there on the wing. While his shot is his biggest asset, the rest of his offensive skills round out nicely. He does a lot of good work in front of the net, cleaning up rebounds and the like. His passing is very solid, very crisp, and usually to the tape. It wasn't incredibly impressive, but definitely a positive as well. He has very nice hands too, and is an extremely smooth skater. He makes moving around the ice look effortless at times. After a lot of digging, I did find some footage of him in his Czech Pro League, and he had no problem keeping up with all of those guys. On the defensive side himself, he said he tries to model his game after Patrice Bergeron, which might be a little bit hard to do from the wing, but it does show he definitely respects the defensive side of the game, and he wants it to be part of who he is. I haven't really seen enough of him to get a good feel for his hockey sense, but it does seem solid enough. He gets to the dirty areas, he does good work, and he makes good passes. While he wasn't one of my favorite picks for 16, I do think he's a really good fit for the Avs and will do great under Landeskog. He can learn a lot from a player like him. So far through his Czech league, it looks like he gets mostly third line minutes, and some of it is a bit sheltered. He doesn't really penalty kill much, which is something he's going to have to learn to do, especially if he's coming to North America, which he says that he's going to. Given that he's already playing in the top Czech league, I have to think if he does come to North America, the most likely spot for him to land is in the AHL. It's possible he makes the NHL, but I certainly wouldn't count on that by any means, so he could definitely bolster the Eagles. They definitely need right wings down there. Overall, Kaut's numbers in the Czech top league were pretty solid for a 17-year-old kid, and then you can also add 5 points in 7 playoff games to that, so he showed up big there for them as well. Kaut is the type of piece that could be our future sooner rather than later. Like I said, I don't really expect them to make the NHL immediately, but he should be competing for a spot as soon as next season. I'm excited to get to know him better and build hype around him. That is the end of this draft day 1 review. Thank you for watching. If you do want to get a feel for Kaut yourself, I did do a shift by shift video of him just before this video went up. You can check it out up there. I'm Rudo3, and we still got 6 more picks to make.